Afternoon, Alistair. How are you today?
Hi, Peter. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
Good. Well, it's great to have you on, Alistair. Welcome to the Business Spotlight. Thanks very much for sharing your time this afternoon. Could we start? Could you tell me a little about your background, please?
Of course, Peter. I'll try not to be too long in this here. I'm from Portrush up in the North Coast, the Gold Coast of Northern Ireland, where so many people from Greater Belfast gravitate to because it's got the best beaches in the country. Leaving that aside, so I'm born and raised in Portrush, spent a lot of time family farm, dairy farmers, pigs, sheep, um, growing potatoes and barley and turnips and so on. And so I had a family affinity with farming, which carried through into the walk in life. So basically, that expressed itself for me through organizing model tractor shows as an adult. Long after I've been through the shops many times with my wife to get presents for the children. And our story really starts from back in there, and believe it or not, model tractors. So from Portrush, farming background, didn't settle on the land, off to university and so on, married, the world of work and so on. And but there's one underlying thread that was always coming through, and it came through ultimately leading to Black Butter, and that is there has to be something more.
Very good. And how long have you been in business for, Alistair?
Yeah, well, I started in November 17, launched Irish Black Butter on the beach at the White Rocks in Portrush. Many people will be familiar with that. And whenever I went down there that day, people came over and asked, what is it and where can you get it? And I said, well, this is what it is. You can't get it yet. We haven't started. However, I sold the first jars on the beach that afternoon. And my good friend Kevin McCauley from Ballycastle, McCauley Multimedia there, photographer, and he came over and did the pictures and all for the press launch. And he says to me, I have a good feeling about this, Ali. I think he was right.
And what was the spark that led you to launch it as a business?
I think that the spark, I believe that everybody has a spark of something in them, whether it's some sort of gift or innate ability or a desire to do something. And this thing was always coming through with me. There has to be something more in it. When I was off in the world of work, I'd often been saying this aloud, and colleagues have been wondering, what's he talking about? There he goes again. There has to be something more. Um, so there was always seeking out something better or trying to do something positive and so on. And probably one of the other sparks in with this year was getting a cassette tape, my first cassette tape in, dare I say it, 1979. There was a guy, Raymond Crooks, I think he might be down around Green Island or Carrickfergus direction originally. And there was a verse in this tape, and it said, spread a little happiness around. Don't let your worries and your troubles get you down. You can help someone today as they journey on their way when you spread a little happiness around. So I was sort of carrying this here through all these years. So the spark was sort of hidden, but it came to the surface now and again in various expressions. So whether that was organizing Yellow Pages deliveries, whether it was at a time when I was doing some arrears collection, helping people to get out of situations there, whether it was running sweet machines, or ultimately whenever it led to running model tractor shows, which we started in 2005. Some friends and I started the first model tractor show in Ireland, and that really led right through, Peter. It's hard to believe, as I say, started from model tractors, and here we are onto Irish Black Butter.
Well, I would regard myself, Alistair, as a bit of a foodie. But black butter is not something it's never crossed my path or my palate. So how does it enhance existing meals, and what do people use it for?
Peter, this is one of the things, whenever I started back in 2017, we were thinking in terms of cheese, meats, apple tart, and ice cream. But as the journey has been on, this has evolved out, and there's so many things. Like we've seen it being used with yogurt and biscuits and chocolate and fudge. Um, so, of course, Morelli's do the ice cream with it, which is fantastic, multi-award winning there as well. But also for the last few years, been used as a ham glaze for Aldi in the Republic of Ireland. So it does a great job for that time of year. Of course, it works any time of year, but basically, we would say to people, look, Irish Black Butter you can use to spread, cook, bake, mix, even barbecue. And whether that's for breakfast, lunch, dinner, Irish Black Butter is there as your friend to transform and enhance anything you already enjoy. So the humble bowl of porridge in the morning, a little taste added in. Some fantastic Greek style yogurt, perhaps like Clandy Greek style yogurt. Little taste in, not stirred, just nibbled. The sour and the sweet coming together is actually divine. The bacon and sausages, the Ulster fry, the Irish fry, wherever the fry is, some Irish Black Butter will pair beautifully with the bacon and sausages. And for those who do let that interloper, the baked beans, come on board the plate, you can put some black butter in the baked beans and you'll get savory beans. So this is a long story here, Peter. We could talk all day just about what to do with black butter. So I'll snap on scones, put a taste on scones and some clotted cream on. Alternatively, you can go to our website. There's recipes for scones there. You can put it in the scones. You can mix it through the cream and serve, and your friends will love you. Lunchtime, sandwiches, toasties, cheese and ham, in with roast beef, chicken, salmon, venison. It's all working there. Later in the day, cooked chops or chicken, based sausages in it. Finish off your steak with it. Put it in pies, shepherd's pies, mince pies, spaghetti bolognese, lasagna. It's all nestling in there. It's giving an extra kick. So I don't want to labor this too much, Peter, because it'll go into desserts as well. And you can bake with it and barbecue. But honestly, we could bore everybody to tears with the uses for Irish black butter. What I say to people basically is, if they've got a jar at home and they're wondering what to do with it, the answer is, if in doubt, use it. Just put some in and see what happens, and it will do its magic. Just trust the product, trust yourself, and enjoy.
Very good. And so who's your target market? Who you aiming the product at?
Well, it's different target markets now, so it is, to be honest. I was looking just in terms of the local demographic for somebody buying the retail jar. We're probably looking in an age group from around low 20s up to high 40s. Somewhere in that is a sort of broad sort of range there. Now, don't get me wrong, it extends beyond that. However, that would be one part of the target market. However, the other target markets include companies who maybe have hotels, restaurants, and so on. So there's a food service element here as well, where we're seeking to expand into that, so that those people can give a great taste of Ireland into the food they're already doing here. Now, that's retail, food service, distributors are all part of our targets. There's different targets here, and you wonder, how can you do this, that, and the other? The simple answer is, you just do, and you do as you can as you go along. As Henry Ford says, do what you can with what you've got where you're at. And essentially, that's what we're doing. Now, we do export as well, so there's a market overseas as well. But that overseas market actually comes to us. So whether they're visiting some of our great visitor destinations, attractions, and so on, jars of Irish black butter are getting picked up there and getting taken across the world. And that's how it led to our product going into Boston, into New York, and more recently, we now supply into Central Market stores in Texas. So it is getting about in a small way. We haven't taken over the world yet, contrary to what Deborah Maiden said in Dragon's Den about not taking over the world, not after the world. We're only there to spread little happiness.
What would you say has been your biggest lesson as a business since launching Irish black butter, Alistair?
Change is inevitable. No matter what you do, either it will need changed or change will come down the track. So it's better to look ahead and look for the different angles and possibilities and try to prepare for them. So it's being receptive to change. You know, there's no Chinese proverb, something along the lines of, for the winds of change blow, some people build walls whilst others make windmills. You know, and you can either respond to the change through being stubborn or being flexible, essentially. And I think that's the name of the game, as with in any business, is always looking ahead, anticipating change, but allowing for the fact you're not always going to get it right. There'll always be other things that will come that you haven't anticipated. And it's working through those challenges. Like, none of us could have seen the pandemic coming through, and prepared for that there.
And are there any business leaders or people that have influenced you or inspired you along your journey?
You know, over the years, one of the things I found, that I was reading a lot of books and so on, motivational, inspirational books and so on. You know, I'd have enjoyed some of the likes of Tony Robbins' work there along the way, the speaker from America, Norman Vincent Peale, names like these here, and it extends on out from that in terms of the reading material that I was actually looking into and getting ideas from. There's a lot of those are really good for boosting people. Some, various business models and so on, cycles of business change and so on, all these things here. But in terms of people, I'd read some of Richard Branson stuff, read some Donald Trump. Sorry, I wasn't really overly inspired there. But the likes of some of the dragons there, some of their materials there, like Duncan Bannatyne's, and always an interesting read. And some of his traits and so on were good. The one who shines through probably out of them all is probably Theo Paphitis, because I like what he's been doing there in that whenever he was on Dragon's Den, he came across as a very nice guy, very straight and honest with people, but very fair at the same time. And I love the way he has reached out to small businesses across the UK with his hashtag SBS Small Business Sunday, which is on Twitter and Instagram from 5 to half 7 on a Sunday evening. And recently, actually, was a winner in that. So it was wonderful to go over to Birmingham to the conference there and to meet him, get a certificate and so on. So I like what he's doing there, and the positive messages of encouraging others. It's not always about looking for oneself. It's not always looking about the money. It's about spreading that little happiness, contributing and making a difference. Because in my book, whenever people work together, great things are achieved.
And tell me, Alistair, what gets you out of bed in the morning and really drives your passion for your business?
Right, that's a very good question. That can ebb and flow, so it can. It depends what's happening at the time. If I've just been doing an event, maybe away several days and so on, the energy level is down because events are so focused, so hands-on, and the energy goes. You don't realize at the time you're bouncing and enjoying all the interacting and so on, but after you just can sort of hit you're drained. So I think ultimately what's driving me on here is that there is a greater mission with this, and that is that we're seeking to spread that little happiness, doing something positive, making a difference perhaps in some small way to people's lives in terms of the way they're enjoying food and getting together and so on. Because one of the things that resonated with a lot of us, I'm sure in this country, was there was so much negative over the years. And I think if we're all chipping away and trying to do our own little bit here, ultimately we can change the tide. So there's still a lot of negative people out there, but if enough of us are working the other direction, we can help them in the right direction to become more positive, and look to the future and work together. So that's a sort of long-winded way of putting it around, Peter. But I think it's the underlying mission of spreading that little happiness. And the thing that resonates with me is whenever I either get messages or pictures from people using the product, and I know that we've succeeded in spreading little happiness. Like I do have some people at time will contact me and just say, I love what you're doing in social media, and always makes me smile and so on. Well, that actually tied in with whenever I went on Dragon's Den, because in the process, I was getting tired of all the due diligence stuff and so on leading into that. And I was sort of getting switched off nearly and thought, I don't know if I can face this here. And then there's obviously the family anxieties. This could be a nightmare. He's on there. Anything could happen. It could all go horribly wrong. But the thing that tipped it for me at the end of the day was a thought that came to my head one day, which essentially is, if people see me in that program that know me, they're going to get some laugh. And you know something? They did. And even people I didn't know, they get a laugh and a smile. And I thought, right, we've succeeded. We've brought a little happiness, into people's lives through being on there. And I think that's important. If you can make somebody smile an overall day, I think that's fantastic.
What was the outcome of your appearance on Dragon's Den?
The outcome rather, at the time, year and a half in the business, early days, they loved the product, said nice things about it. Nobody invested in it. Deborah Meaden passed some comment about you're not going to take over the world. And, I don't know. I don't know where she came out with that. We're not after the world, So no investors, lots of great feedback from them. A good uplift in business, though I must say that we had a much bigger lift from whenever James Martin used it in the television. And he's the Saturday morning program, of course, and the last time he used a clip with the product on, it took us over a week to clear the orders. So I'm optimistic that things could happen again soon.
Excellent.
Can't say more than that.
If you could go back in time, Alistair, I'm sure it wasn't that long ago, but if you could go back in time and speak to your 18-year-old self and give out some advice, what would that advice sound like?
Go and get on with seeing the world. Get around more sooner. Don't hang around. Don't leave it too late, because the later you leave it, the more you're playing catch up. So there's like Kathleen and I have only been in America. It was a couple of years ago. It was our first time when we were invited over to Nashville. And that was the first time I'd ever been. Yeah, I know young people who are a fraction of my age, and they think nothing of jetting off to the States and seeing here, there, and wherever else. And I think of one particular young lady that I know, and she's been back and forward to Florida and whatever, I don't know, many times this year. So I think it's get on with things before you get tied down. And it does resonate with what a gentleman in business here in the town had said years ago about getting on with things, you know, before you do get tied down. If you do get tied down, it's not the end of the story. The story goes on, you know, and time opens out. So it does, as the stages of childhood and growing up come through. So you do have your windows. I kept my windows, you know, I still was able to go and do things. So that they're an extra inspiration as well. Never mind a tie, but something to ground, but also to inspire. So I think it's get on with things then. But now at this age, I would still say get on with it. Go and do, live life, see the world, make a contribution. Whilst you can, do it. As I said earlier, Henry Ford, do what you can with what you've got, where you're at. So start from there, get on with it.
Very good. So the clocks are about to go forward, and there you go. 25% of 2024 will be gone in the next week or so. So what are you most excited about for the remaining 75% of 2024?
Wow. You know something, Peter, one of the things with this journey is that at times you never know what exactly is coming next. You can plan ahead certain things, but suddenly things come out of the blue. So I wouldn't be surprised if things come out of the blue this year that I have no idea about, which will come along and just be, wow. Like recently we got an invite over to Lancaster House for the UK and Texas trade reception where we met the governor of Texas, you know, so that was a great highlight. Didn't know anything about that 5 weeks ago. So I know that there is something coming up on second Saturday in May, which I'm really looking forward to see what happens with that. Expect that could be very interesting, what happens after that particular interview goes out on TV. So I'll say no more than that, but there is something happening 11th of May.
Good stuff. Well, I look forward to that. Well, and look, Alistair, I'm sure there'll be people that will listen to this that maybe haven't tried your product. If somebody is intrigued and wants to give it a go, what's the best way for them to go about that?
Right. We're on irishblackbutter.com for online sales. However, here in Northern Ireland, there are a reasonable number of stockists dotted around. You'll find them in the centre of Belfast and Bangor and so on. Down your part of the world, you've got the Guillemot and you have David Irvine's there who'll be stocking. You've stockists in Newton Ours, and it does get about. You don't have to look too hard to find it. Ask in delis, cheese shops, farm shops, garden centres, visitor locations, independent retail. So it's out there. But sorry, you do have to look a wee bit forward because it isn't baked beans and it isn't strawberry jam that's just available everywhere. You have to look a wee bit harder. At the end of the day, whenever you're seeking treasure, you know, it doesn't appear just like that. You have to go and hunt for it. So the jars of Irish black butter are worth going, seeking out, finding and enjoying. And whenever people have it, don't bother putting it in the fridge when it's open. It doesn't need to be there.
I was just going to ask that. So it's on the ambient shelves then, in amongst other jars of sauces that people might see.
It will be, yes.
Fantastic. Well, look, Alistair Bell from Irish Black Butter, thank you very much. It's been an education for me, and I will have to try it now, obviously, after speaking to you. But thanks very much for sharing your story and telling us about your fantastic product. And I wish you all the success for the remaining 75% of 2024 and beyond that. So thank you very much, Alistair.
Peter, thank you so much. Great to see you.